Welcome back to Bottom Line on Metro TV. And just like I said earlier, today we're going to look at the Ghana National Chamber of Commerce and Industry. And I'm going to go straight into the conversation as I introduce my distinguished guest, who happens to be the president of the Ghana National Chamber of Commerce and Industry, Mr. Stephane Abass Miezan. Thank you very much for joining us
Thank
on
you,
Bottom Line.
Kwesi.
And good to have you.
This is Kwesi sitting in for Kwesi.
That's interesting.
How you doing?
I'm doing very well,
Great.
and I hope you're doing well too.
I'm well.
All right, so we're going to start the conversation with your grand plan on transforming the chamber.
Okay. First, give me the opportunity to talk about what the chamber does.
Okay.
And then probably my plan, because I'm the president. But I need to speak about the work of the chamber, then as a president, my vision for the chamber.
Okay.
So
All right.
that's if
fine.
you give me the opportunity.
Sure.
So the chamber operates on 4 major legs. Yes, let me say that. The first one is advocacy. In advocacy, what we do is that we advocate for businesses and industry. So the chamber is the leading voice of the business community. The chamber is backed by an ally, ally 611. And what we do is that we advocate for the business community. So on issues and policies that the government will bring. So what it is that there are issues that government bring that does not go well for the business community. So the chamber's responsibility to advocate for that. It could be issues on taxes, it could be issues on tariffs and all of that for industry as well. Then also we also advocate on issues that the government may not have thought about it. So on issues that the government have brought that affect us, and issues that the governments have not thought about it, then we also bring it to attention of the government. So that's one. The second arm is we do capacity building. So it is our responsibility to build up the capacity of the business community and industry. So on technology, new technologies, new service areas and stuff. So that is one thing that we also do. We also do business to business linkages. Okay. So that is business within Ghana, from region to region, even within the same region, and also linking up, putting up partnership between Ghanaian businesses and also foreign businesses. That is the third arm. And then we also do what we call export documentation. For every organization or every industry that export out of Ghana, there's a requirement we call the certificate of origin. It's only the Chamber of Commerce that issues that certificate of origin. And this is done internationally. Or every chamber of commerce does that for its industry in the country. Okay. So basically that is the mandate of the chamber, to speak for the business community, to bring businesses together, to train them, and also to do export documentation. Having said that, as a leader, one of my ambition has been that to have a stronger voice for the business community. People say that voices can be loud or they can be weak. They can be strong and they can be loud, weak. So for me, my vision is to ensure that we have the chamber has a strong voice and a strong presence within the nation and within our jurisdiction. Because this is the only way that the people for whom we are elected to lead will see the benefit of our leadership, to advocate strongly for them on issues that affect their industry. So basically that has been my main focus doing that. Having also been elected president, the chamber has 8 regions. We are in 8 different regions. And my ambition is to also ensure that almost every region has its own office space. Currently, we rent spaces in our regions. So that are things that we are working with all our regional offices to ensure that all of our regional offices would also have their own office space to do that as well.
All right, so I mean, you spoke about you having a stronger voice for businesses and also for trade. Let me find out from you some of the impacts you have made so far concerning the vision that you've just outlined in front of all of us. Some of the impacts that you have made over the years.
Okay, so in the very recent times, we had advocated for the reduction in the base rates, in the reference rates. We advocated for that. The governor of Bank of Ghana did listen to that. Very recently, we had issues with VAT because it wasn't properly aligned. So we had opportunity to present our case to IMF when they came, and also to the finance minister. So that is what we have seen as resulting in what recently in the delivery of the budget. And also we spoke strongly against what do you call it, the COVID levy, which has also resulted in that. As a chamber, we have a lot of relationship with neighboring countries. So I'll take a very good example. I give an example as Burkina Faso. They ship through here because it's an inland country. And some of their challenges were the country charging VAT, charging NHIS, charging COVID. So, and they had legitimate concern because VAT is supposed to be charged for products in the country.
Yeah.
So if they are not consuming it or processing it, you can't charge them VAT.
That's true.
If they are not benefiting from our health insurance, then you can't charge them NHIS on their import. Okay, and also COVID had elapsed. We didn't need there was no reason in charging COVID. So all these are things that we have advocated for that we've seen the results recently.
All right. So now we're going to look at the 24-hour economy implementation. What has the chamber done so far to help with the success of it?
Okay, so we can't say success because it's still in process. But we want to present our support for it. First of all, I think it's a brilliant, fantastic idea. But also, in which direction are we going? And for me, I've always advocated that we need to identify, is it in the service area? And I will cite Dubai as a country, which is running its economy 24 hours in the service area. Is it in the industry area? And outside China as a country, where we all know that China is the factory of the world because it is working 24 hours. In those two scenarios, I believe that to make it properly work, we need to take the Chinese model, in the sense that we have everything that will make it work, starting from agriculture. Okay? When we decide that we are going to turn every fruit, every agricultural produce into, from the traditional way that you use it, into a proper finished good that can be exported. That is industry working this thing. You have natural resources. And I have advocated so many times on different platforms. There's no reason why, as a country, over 68 years as a country, over 100 years that the white man came here, we still export that. So for me, very recently, the President my Excellency went to China, and then there was the negotiation to have the zero tariff. And it's a good move. But I am saying that because we need to transform all of our natural resources and our agri-produce, that tariff should rather go more on machinery and tools that can help us to expand industry, create more factories, okay? Because there's no reason why if somebody is bringing a luxurious car, it's taxed. And if somebody is bringing machinery to turn bauxite into iron, it's also taxed on the tools, on those tools. So that is there. So yes, our focus in achieving a 24-hour economy in progress until infinity is to focus on industry. But on what model? Is it the service industry or the manufacturing? And I want to advocate for that.
And you advocate for the China model. But then let me check out on this one. You spoke about the fact that we would have to look at the Chinese model, and then secondly, we have the resources. Let me ask you, do you think the implementation and when it comes to maintenance, we have the capacity to actually run this successfully?
There's no doubt. We have a huge, by demographics, we have a huge youth population who are largely educated. So then it means they are adaptable. They can adapt to new technologies. So there's no doubt. We have a very stable political environment. We are over 30 32 years or 33 years in stable democracy. So there's no doubt that we can't achieve a 24-hour economy. So I believe that yes, once we put in the modalities are put in rightly, and we as a people buy into it and want to follow it and not be partisan about it, then obviously there's no way we cannot achieve it. You see, I have always come to the belief that there's nothing a man can do unless you tell yourself that you can't do it.
That's
so
true.
once we put our mind to it that we can do it, once we understand that it is for the good of our own people, and therefore we want to ensure it's done, we will do it. Okay? The economies that we see, the developed economies that we see, also started like we are.
And they're moving on.
And they moved on. Okay? So it's because the people bought into it. And then they've made it possible. So there's no reason why we cannot do it. There's no reason.
All right. So let's look at some challenges that you think you can list out that need immediate attention when it comes to trade and industry. Some challenges.
Okay, so first of all, for me, my greatest challenge that I always pronounce is access to funding. So now the government, the finance ministry could be touting itself of trying to bring the reference rate down and all of that. It's true, the reference rate has come down. But if you have no access to it, then it really does not make sense. Something is cheap, but you can't get it. How does that make sense? It doesn't.
It doesn't at all.
No, at all. So it is not just the point of putting every effort to bring the cost of the fund down, but also access. And in accessing it's the impediments the financial institutions put in so that the business community cannot even get a fund. Also, on the other side is that instead of the financial institutions making it possible for the business community to access that fund, they prefer to go and to be on the capital market. So what it is that the government itself has to leave the capital market and rather partner the private sector in terms of its development. So if it is hospitals that the government wants to develop for communities, they have private partners that you can engage. If there are roads that the government wants to develop, there are private partners in the public space that you can partner with. Okay? If there are schools, there are private partners. So when the government itself decides that, look, I'm going to go into partnership with the private sector and put up infrastructure, it allows the banks to make funding available for the private sector. So then you get it at a cheap cost, and you get it accessibility becomes accessible.
Do you think do you think there is willingness between the government and the private sector to actually work together?
Government is supposed to provide an enabling environment for the business, for the private sector. So that is the first step. Providing an enabling environment for the private sector to thrive. So the government has no business doing business. That's one. I believe this government is doing well. And it is all of this advice and contribution to it that we believe that when they listen, they can come and work with the private sector. So I believe that the opportunities are there for the government to work with the private sector.
Yeah, right. So that's beautiful to know. And I'm hoping that it goes a long way to actually help us to advance. But then let's look at technology. Do you think industries in Ghana are really using it well to actually help us to advance and grow as an economy?
First of all, we do not have the technology. Okay? So I am talking about transformation of raw materials into finished good. We do not have the technology. So that is why we have to avail ourselves to be able to bring that technology at a cheaper rate for industry. Okay? Now we come to advanced technology as in AI. We have the youth who today are more knowledgeable in those areas and adaptable. India has done this thing already. India now, there's no big organization in the world that you don't see an Indian. It's because as a country they focus on that. That look, let's train our youth, let it so that it can be an exportable service. Just like now, Ghana is trying to export the services of nurses.
Yeah.
Okay, so we can also export the services of IT personalities. Okay, people who are knowledgeable in that area. So yes, in terms of industry, we need to open up. We need to put in measures and policies that will allow us to be able to bring in technology for the transformation of our raw materials, both agri and natural resources. Okay, out of the ground, and also the service area. So education, how are we bringing professionals in? Could it be teachers that we are doing mass and export that service? Is it nursing that we are exporting mass to provide that service? Is it law? Is it marketing? All of that. So yes, we have the capacity to do all of these things, but it is always the direction that we want to go as a country. It is also as how we as a people are buying into the vision of our leaders, and not to make it so partisan. But even when it is a good idea, we don't want to support it. So I'll take that back to the idea of free SHS. It's a good idea. So how do we support it to make it better? The idea of a 24-hour economy. How do we support it to make it better? So those are the things that are important for us as citizens of a nation, to understand the direction our leaders want to take us to, and not be too partisan about it. Once we think nationalistic, that is the way that is going to make us a prosperous nation.
You talked about natural resources, which it's clear to all of us that we have enough of it. But these days, there's a decline of how we, as citizens of this country, we're even using it. And even the few of us that are really into the natural resources and producing from it, we bypass the country to other countries because we're looking at the prices of how these things should be transacted, or how these goods and services that we render should be transacted. Do you think it's something that we are not regulating enough to actually harness the potential of it?
Yes, exactly. So it's an issue of regulation. So in agri area, our natural resource could be cocoa, rubber, and stuff. Very recently, we have done a lot of advocacy on behalf of the rubber industry, where they were complaining about the government having a policy that is allowing people to buy the rubber in its raw state and export. For which reason, the local industries are not getting enough feed, for which reason they have to shut down some of their distance. The same is with cocoa, okay, where we are always competing with Ivory Coast, where even a country like Togo, which is not known for cocoa production or exports, is also getting recognition. How is it so? Ivory Coast is getting anonymous because they are getting some extras from Ghana. Togo is getting that recognition because they're also getting the produce from Ghana. So what is the reason? It's most likely policy. It's also most likely prices and stuff. Having said that, why should we even export all of the cocoa when industry is not even getting the feed? So why don't we say that before the cocoa even goes out, it is processed? So that way, other investors would invest in the factories or that will process the cocoa. So for me, that is how it is. So it's policy. Why should Ivory Coast be getting more cocoa additionally from Ghana? Why should even Togo be recognized as a cocoa exporting company? So it's policy, and that's one of the things that the government has to look at very well.
Talking about policy, the Ghana National Chamber of Commerce and Industry, you have a strong voice when it comes to industries and trade in this country. What are you also doing on your part to make the government hear you? Because I believe strongly that from the things that you shared with us so far concerning the organization and what you do, the chamber particularly, you have a way of making sure that these things are laid down so that industries and entrepreneurs and so on can follow suit and then help us grow.
Okay. So some of the things that we are doing is availing ourselves, first of all, to these opportunities like this. Like I said from the beginning, our core mandate is advocacy.
Yeah.
So we identify the issues that are worrying industry. We do strong advocacy on that. So in the not too long distance time ago, we had advocated for duty drawback. The duty drawback meant that the industries that imported raw material to process and export. They pay a duty, and then once you export it out, you need to cash out that duty, because once it's for export, then you don't need to. You need to cash that duty back. So we needed to do a lot of advocacy. Having said that, there are occasions that we brought issues to the government. So I'll give you a typical example. Very recently, the Minister for Trade, Agribusiness and Industry had announced on the floor of Parliament the cessation of the one district, one factory policy.
Yeah.
And it's quite understanding. It's understanding because it's a policy of a different government, of the past government. Now, the policy of this government is 24-hour economy. But for us, because we believe that in as much as the policy of a past government, the industries are Ghanaian industries.
That's true.
You understand? Mm-hmm. So here, politics does not come in. So as a chamber, we have taken the lead to advocate that the government looks at, even though you would have cancelled that policy, you still need to absorb those industries into your new policy, a 24-hour.
I was going to ask you about that.
Yes. So we have started doing advocacy. We have met with the Minister for Trade and Agribusiness to listen to her. We are here to meet with the investors, with the industrialists, which is the industrialists under the one district, one factory, to also understand them. So once, like a chief, you don't make a judgment on one side. So we've listened to the Minister for Trade. We've visited him. We are here to meet the one district, one factory players in December, listen to them, and we see how we can advocate their issue and bring this to Israel so that they can be moved from this policy under the new policy to provide, because whatever they are doing, they are also doing for the Ghanaian public. Okay, they are providing jobs for the Ghanaian public. They are paying taxes to the government to provide services to us like roads and hospitals and all of that. So yes, that is one major thing that we are doing, and we believe that once we are having listened to them, and we all come together to approach the minister and therefore the government, something can be done about that.
That's great to know. All right, so Mr. Stephane Miezan, we're going to go for a short break, and when we come back, we're going to look at the 2026 budget, the implications, and also the way forward for trade and industry. All right, so we're going to go for a short break. When we come back, we get into that conversation. Welcome back to Bottom Line, and we are talking to the Ghana National Chamber of Commerce and Industry, and we're looking at Ghana's economy, trade, entrepreneurs, and also industries all across Ghana. And I'm speaking to the president, Mr. Stephane Abass Miezan. All right, so let's continue with the conversation. Before I went on the break, I said that we're going to look at the 2026 budget. Now, let's look at it from your point of view and organization's point of view. Did the budget reflected your aspirations?
Oh yes, definitely it did. And budget are documents, are plans that are put down for implementation. It's something that you plan that this is what you are going to do, but it also tells you the achievements of the previous year. So microeconomic gains that have been made, what we want to talk about is that we need to consolidate that to see that we can achieve what the budget wants to tell us. So definitely it did meet what we're expecting. I've mentioned that we had opportunity to meet the IMF team and also the finance minister to speak about aligning the VAT system, because at first it was very confusing. Some people were paying a certain rate and all that. Even the VAT itself was calculated levies and then VAT. So we had issues with all the VAT issues, and then we had announced that, or pronounced that to the finance ministry, which they had listened to, brought it down from almost 22% to 20%. Yeah, 20%. But even with that, we have issues, okay? Because we think that is too high. If you look at...
Why do you think so?
if you look at a sub-region, you know, VAT is a tax. And once every tax is high, it makes cost of goods high and services high.
That's true.
But when it goes down, what it means is that cost of goods becomes, spending goes up because they are cheaper. But you see, because mechanisms are not put in place, that is why some of these taxes are targeted at a few people and therefore it's so high, so that the government can meet its revenues. But if you find ways, so for instance, let me give you a good example. You know, when the finance minister was interviewed for vetted, and then he had mentioned that they are going to, what is it? Take VAT off those who are trading on online. My position was, look, yes, on the mobile money thing, on the mobile money.
Yeah, the mobile money, yeah.
My position is, look, there are people who trade, who sell online. A lot of them. If you say that all of us, because of your political position, you're not going to charge what that thing was. What that was?
The levies.
The levy and all of this on the electronic transactions, even including those trading online, then it's a chunk of income that you have lost. So there should be an AI system online that would indicate that if I'm transferring money to my mother, it doesn't have to be taxed. But if you are selling a good to me, the AI system should be able to identify that, yes, my transactions with you online was on goods and services, and therefore you are taxed.
Yeah.
Do you understand? Mm-hmm. So the system should be able to make that determination. Once you put it in that system, it should be able to identify, because that's a lot of chunk of money that we are not, because these days people are even leaving the fiscal structure in terms of shops and business and doing their business online, trading online. But how do we identify them and tax them? And so if you can put in a mechanism that helps us, then obviously you are going to tax the people who enter the fiscal structures and are easily identifiable, then tax them. Hence, your tax will go up. But if you look at the sub-region, our tax is the highest, and it's very not encouraging. So
I see what you're saying, but let me also ask you this. I mean, it's also in line with what you're saying, but then I want to find out from you in terms of production. Are we really producing more to export, or we are rather taking more from outside into our country? So that is why probably the taxing has gone the way that it's going.
Okay, so that's a very good question. Because we sit here, we know, and because we do export documentation, over the period of time, we have realized that our revenues through the certificate of origin has gone down. That means that we are not exporting more. And so if we are not exporting more, we are importing more. So that is something that we need to change. So, but what is causing that is also probably access to funding, as we talked about, supply, the cost of. Sometimes it might not even be the cost of the electricity. I mean, it might not even be the supply of it, because you have had constant supply. But it can also be the cost. Do you understand? Yeah. If the tariffs on electricity are always going up, it becomes expensive for the manufacturer.
That's true.
Then also the tariffs on water supply, because some industries use a lot of water to produce. Okay. Then now, a lot of companies are being barred because of our water quality, because of issues with GNCCI and all of that. That affects water, and therefore what affects production. So yes, we sitting here at the chamber, having realized that our revenues are going down, especially based on our certificate of origin, it means that there's something which the government need to look at. Just yesterday, we had experts come to discuss issues and need better insight into the budget. And one of the things that indicators that we realized was going on had to do with industry. Okay, so we need to, as a country, need to look at that. And we also need to look at that because it ties into the strength of our currency. Okay, And I have always argued that I would have loved that a dollar is equal to a cedi.
That would be fantastic.
Yes. Why is this so? We have currencies that are stronger than the dollar. The pound is stronger than the dollar. Okay? When you go to Qatar, their currency is stronger than the dollar. If you go to Korea, their currency is at par with the dollar. Okay? But all of these currencies are strong because there's something that backs that currency. And it's not, and for Ghana, it shouldn't only be gold. Our attention has to be drawn to industrialization. Because when we industrialize, we will be consuming our own. And once we are going to consume our own, we don't need the dollar to import. Do you understand what I mean?
Yeah.
So the desire is to ensure that our currency is strong. But to make the currency strong is which direction are we going to ensure that the currency is strong. So we don't need it. Because the cost of the dollar is the price at which we buy it. Okay, so if something, and this is simple economics. When something is unavailable, its price is high. When it's available, its price is low. So when you don't need it, obviously, you don't need to go and buy it at a higher cost. But we can only make sure that our currency is strong because it is backed by something. And it cannot be backed by gold alone. It's a good produce, but it cannot be backed by gold. Yes, there's cocoa. Yes, there's cocoa. But this time, the cocoa farms, we are counting them down.
But we also
and bring them.
trying to list out some of the things that
yes, but
we can get oil from grants.
Yes, but you see, all of these things are not processed. So there's no industry.
Why
we have manganese. We have bauxite.
We used to do it, but then why are we not doing it?
So that is the issue. All these things are shipped out. That's what I've said from the beginning. That we need to industrialize the nation. I have advocated, and I'm using this platform to request of the government that look, let's bring out policies that will force the investors to set up industries. So assuming that bauxite that we use for, I know that is used for, let's say, glass and all of that. We say that, look, we are bringing a policy that says that the bauxite cannot leave the country unless it is processed, at least the first 2 stages. Assuming that it is 5 stages, that makes it a consumable product. Let's bring a policy that says that the first 2 stages, it has to be done here. And we have seen examples that we have done this thing before. When I was young, not too young though, President Wallace.
You're still a young man.
Yes, I'm handsome. I'm old, but I'm handsome. President Rawlings brought a policy that said that you cannot ship out round log out of the country. That policy alone meant that if you want to ship the timber out, you need to have a sawmill. At least, to the barest minimum, slice it. So that alone brought up a lot of sawmills in Ghana.
It gives you an advantage.
It gives you a lot of advantage in terms of value, in terms of employment and all of that. It gives you a lot of advantage. So that's what I'm saying. Let's have a policy that says every raw material does not leave the country unless it's processed to a certain stage. So that's why I said that if you have a law, a policy that says that if the raw material is processed, or these 5 processes, let's do 2 of them here. Over time, you push another law that says do the next 2 here. Okay? Then you do the last one. What would have happened? And let's remember, every produce or the byproduct of every produce is also a feedstock into another industry. You understand? So out of one, you get so many. So as part of the budget, you know, the government, I want to tie in this to the oil palm project that the government wants to embark on and use Malaysia as a country, as an example. They have 1,000 derivatives out of that tree. 1,000 derivatives. So they are using some for soap, they are using some for cream, they are using some for deodorant, all sorts of stuff. And even the wood itself, the palm tree is also turned into wood. Just one tree. So if you have a policy that says that we are going to massively go into oil palm, what are the next steps? Is it just growing them and exporting them as crude? Or we are looking at all the other derivatives out of that produce. So it is important. So for us, the budget is what we expected, because for a chamber, what we had laid before in terms of the VAT system, streamline it, the COVID, ensuring that the COVID is taken off, and all that. And so some of the things that we didn't mess as the oil palm were things that we think that this makes it a very solid budget.
How dangerous do you think Galamsey will affect trade and industry in Ghana?
Wow. Galamsey is a bad thing. And it's dangerous for everything, trade and industry. So we want to admonish the government and the president especially to put in strong measures. I've said that the government needs to declare war on it. It shouldn't be a fight, because this is not a fight that we are winning. But to come to your point, when all the water bodies are spoiled, industry cannot exist anymore, because you don't have water to even do the processing. Okay? You know, they have done Galamsey to the point where train lines have been destroyed. So assuming that we have a good train line system, what would have happened to that? We have Galamsey that the electricity pylons, all of it have come down. So that means that if the
transportation of goods and services.
Yes, even if you have to transmit electricity to a factory, because that pylon comes down, that factory cannot work. Okay? We have Galamsey that has destroyed roads that would have brought produce from the farmland to the consuming areas, and even to feed the industry. So Galamsey is bad. It's really, really bad. So we need to find strong ways to ensure that we bring this to an end. Okay?
Right.
And we shouldn't encourage ourselves that because it's bringing in a lot of dollars to back our currency. Yes, it is good. But is it to the detriment of the future of those living now and those unborn? Is it? No, it can be. So we need to find better ways of handling this Galamsey issue.
What are some of the new ideas that the chamber is injecting into the economy for industries to adopt that I'm sure that some industries are not very much aware of?
Okay, so one of the things that we are encouraging and getting our membership to avert their mind to is artificial intelligence. Okay, it has caught up with us. It looks like we are too late getting along with it. So we are encouraging our membership in the industry to accept that this is technology. If you don't get along with it, if you don't get into it, it will pass you by. Very soon you'll be obsolete. So that is one of the things that we are strongly advocating and educating our membership on, because it's a new technology that we are adopting. We are also trying to get the government to help us to access new industrial machinery that will make production quicker and cheaper and faster. So those are areas that as a chamber we have been working on very much with our membership and also with government.
I read somewhere that in 2030 our children and industry, particularly those that will go into industry, will have to be buying water from outside Ghana. What can we do now to actually save it before it happens? Because we're in 2026 already.
Yeah.
So in 4 years, when it comes to trade and industry in Ghana, we obviously can't take care of our businesses because we don't have water.
Okay.
What can we start to do now to help with the situation?
Okay. What we have to do now is what we have to do, what we should have done, and what we need to do going into the future. First of all, we need to bring an end to Galamsey. 2 or 3 days ago, one of the regions, they had announced that they're going to shut down they have even shut down their water plants. Okay? We never had that issue. Okay? And you see, the chemicals, the cyanide, the mercury, is such that even when you dig the borehole for industry, it will still be found in that. Okay? So, the destruction of the environment is first, we need to stop that. Then we need to start reclaiming them. Okay? We need to start reclaiming them. But somebody will argue that, okay, if you want to stop the galamsey, which is also providing not income, but jobs for people, then what happens? Yes, the galamsey provides enormous jobs, but in the way they're doing it is what has to be stopped. So if there's a way that people can be trained to do sustainable mining, then that is all the better. But for now, whatever we are doing in 4 years' time, starting 2026 to 2030, that's 4 years' time, industries are going to collapse. We will not even find water to even drink. That means we need to even import water to drink.
Probably depend on the rainwater.
Yes. No, but even depending on the rainwater, that means you are catching it. You can't let it sink into maybe underground tanks and stuff. What it means is once it touches the ground, there's chemical there, it goes into this. So unless you catch it straight, and then you do this. And that is also not massive enough to supply water to the public, to the populace.
What are your final words?
Mine is that there's no leader, or it is painful for a leader to look back and the people that he is supposed to lead are not following. That means you are not leading. It is also painful for a leader to bring in brilliant ideas that put a nation into future, and then the people do not buy into that vision. I think that governments before and now have had visions that will make our nations go forward. It is for us as a country to understand the vision, to buy into it, and to move our nation forward. Because for me, the saddest part is to see us trying to traverse the deserts or traverse the high seas to go into foreign lands when we can make ours better. Okay? So the policies that our governments put in place, like a policy like Queen for our economy, is good. It increases employment and productivity. So why can't we support such an agenda? Okay? A policy like One District, One Factory, if it was done well, that means a lot of industries that would have created jobs.
From all the regions.
You understand? So why can't we do it? Apart from that, it is also for our leaders not to just make it just beautiful by saying these things, but to also make it possible for us who want to follow them, to follow them. So if there's a policy like 24-hour economy, what are the conditions that will make an ordinary person who wants to start a new industry be able to do that? What are the conditions that will make the person who is already existing in an industry expand and employ more? So it is both ways. We want to follow them. We want them to also ensure that they make it easier for us to follow them. Okay, so for me, as a Ghanaian, that I love my country very well, I want to entreat everybody. Let us support our government to make our nation better. Because nobody, absolutely nobody.
Nobody's coming to help us.
Yes. I end with this.
I wouldn't want you to end because you said something that would want me to ask you one last question before you finally end. After has been doing so much on the African continent and even around the world, why are we, particularly Ghana, not producing brands that meet global standards?
We are not producing brands that meet global standards because, first one, the conditions of AFTAG. You know, one of the conditions is that everything that you use to produce to get the output has to be local. So if I want to produce something that needs sugar, we don't have it. So it has to be an import. to be part of the ingredients. So first of all, you are disqualified there. Secondly, it is our preparation industrially as a country. How well are we or were we prepared? Or how well were we preparing as these negotiations for the Continental Free Trade Agreement signing that, look, this is coming, this is big. A continent of 1.4 billion people with a GDP over 3 trillion. What am I doing as an industrialist? Preparing towards that. So is there also the preparation? And currently, as the agreement has been signed, what are we doing to prepare industry to meet up to a standard? Because the standard that you are producing for Ghana is not the same standard that you can produce for other countries. It has to meet an international standard. So that is where even the chamber has come in to do a lot of training for industry to ensure that they meet up to standard. As part of that too, we are doing a lot of engagement and training to scale up women to also meet up, because we don't want the women folks to be left out of this great initiative, okay? And also the youth is one of the things that we are also doing to bring them along as a chamber. And all of this are being done under my leader.
Congratulations. I mean, keep going. You had some final words for Ghanaians.
So my final word was that I met a great chief who comes from our region, Nana Kobman Katia. And he once told me that, Abass, you see the Takra Depot, because that's where I come from, was not built to our advantage, was built to the advantage of the white man, because he needed it to ship our produce out. What I'm trying to say is that nobody is going to make our country well apart from us, because it is to our benefit. Anybody who comes in is going to do it to his own benefit. So even when they are teaching you their language, they are teaching you their language for you to understand, so that you go and bring the produce for them to send away. So it is only us as a country to understand that it is only us who can do it well for ourselves that can do it. So let us all support, make Ghana great as we want it to be.
Thank you very much. And we've been speaking to the president of the Ghana National Chamber of Commerce and Industry, President Stephane Abass Miezan. Thank you once again. And this has been Bottom Line on Metro TV. See you in another episode.